Lisa Kudrow, who made millions of dollars off the Friends show, now says it was not a place you wanted to go. It was disgusting. It was vile. The writer's room, mostly male. And well, it just so happens we have somebody who was on the production set of Friends ready to explain what really was going on. And we'll weigh in on whether or not Miss Kudrow should be grateful instead of hateful for a show that made her a household name. Well, imagine that. Smelly Cat is back in the news, and folks, we are ready to get at it yet again, this time with a first-hand, first-person witness to the entire way that Friends went down. As we dive in, click that like button. It'll turn our frown upside down. The studio here in somewhere sunny USA, glistening because you're listening to what we have to say. Lisa Kudrow, one of the stars from Friends, is claiming that it was a brutal experience being on the show in which she made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. She says there was a lot of mean stuff going on behind the scenes. She started, of course, as Phoebe, and she did the Smelly Cat song. Here's what we've got out of theindependent.com. This is by Lauren Morris. It says, Friends star Lisa Kudrow has shared the darker side of her time on the hit sitcom, revealing that the female cast faced intense scrutiny from its mostly male writer's room. Interesting. It's maybe worse framing by the activist media rather than what Kudrow was trying to say. She, 62, is best known for starring as a free spirit Phoebe Buffet in all 10 seasons of the comedy, which has become one of the highest grossing TV shows of all time since it first aired in 1994.
You may also know her as no one's favorite friend on that show.
Oh, Marv.
I have never met a single person, because, you know, back in the night, it was always like, oh, who's your favorite friend? Are you a Chandler guy? Are you a Ross guy? Like, who do you like? Nobody ever said Phoebe.
Oh,
ever.
Marv. Surely there's somebody who's a Phoebe fan.
Maybe Lisa Kudrow's mom. I don't know, but like if you, I think she was a Rachel. She got the haircut.
Over 20 years on from Friends finale, Kudrow admitted in a new interview that there was mean stuff going on behind the scenes in the writers' room, which was mostly men, made up of 12 to 15 staff members. Here's what she says, quote, "Don't forget we were recording in front of a live audience of 400, and if you messed up one of these writers' lines or didn't get the perfect response, they could be like, can't the bee blanking read? She's not even trying. She blanked up my line," she told the Times on Thursday. Quote, "And we know that back in the room, the guys would be up late discussing their fantasies about Jennifer and Courtney. It was intense." All right, well, let's go to somebody who might know a little bit about this. Lou, you have been in the industry, and I'll leave it to you how much you want to say. What do you make of the idea that the writer's room was vitriolic and just too darn mean to these millionaires?
Just like all the other writers' rooms, you mean? Just like all the other rooms where you have 15 people trying to stand out against each other, let alone against the cast? Where you have 15 people writing lines that they don't get to deliver so that the audience laughs. I mean, how many times, just in general about movies and TV, do people say something like, well, as Humphrey Bogart once said, he didn't say it, the guy that wrote the script said it. So there's a certain ego issue there to begin with. That show, I was around that show a little bit, and I got to tell you, oh boy, the emotions and the egos and the attitudes. And 1 week when I was there doing the whole show, at the end, which was very late, unlike shows that I was in charge of, I mean, it was like 2 a.m. The audience stayed the whole way. Usually the audiences peter out and you wind up shooting anyway. I start packing my stuff. And one of the camera people says to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Going home to my wife." And they said, No. This is when the party starts. This is when the booze and the Coke and everything else comes out. I said, "Great, thanks, good night." A lot of people were very, very, very well paid and very, very big shots on that show, beyond almost every other show on the air at the time. And when they weren't there, they were just them in their own lonely little room somewhere. So, yeah, there were egos. Yeah, there was attitudes.
So, Lou, to walk through why the writer's room may have been harsh, and I don't know. Maybe they were just awful to the ladies and not to the men. I don't know. Who knows? But as you're describing it, it sounds like these episodes would be shot until like 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and the writers have to be working on the next episode, so their hours have to be even crazier.
Well, yeah, they're all there when it's being shot, of course. Now, the way these shows work, though, you do basically 3 and then take a week off to catch up on the writing, and 3 and take a week or 2 off to catch up on the writing. So it isn't quite as pressured as it may sound. But the other problem, of course, is once these shows get big, some of these folks decide, all those rehearsal days during the week, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it.
Right, because I cannot
Cheers, be... On Cheers, Woody Harrelson was famous for never showing up for rehearsals.
Because they can't be fired, so they can be Allen Iverson, essentially, right? Because
but, they had something more important to do, like repolish their Maserati or whatever.
Oh, sure.
It's just... In other words, the bigger the show, the more money involved, in my experience. Frankly, the less what you or I or anybody in any business would call professionalism. That's a shame, but that's the way it is. When I first got involved with the show, a dear friend of mine was very high up in the pecking order on the production side, and he and I had worked on a different show where he was at a lesser position. And I said, so how does this compare? And he said, I have 3 times as much power. I'm making 5 times as much money. And I'm not having any fun.
Right. Well, that's not.
So, that's Hollywood.
Let me follow up one more time with you, Lou. This quote is what is so funny to me. It says, don't forget we were recording in front of a live audience of 400. If you messed up one of these writers' lines or didn't get the perfect response, they'd be like, can't the be blanking read? She's not even trying. She blanked up my line. Lou, if she was a waitress, because people experience this all the time. I'm not trying to excuse it. People need to be kind, flat out. Humans need to be nice to each other. There's no doubt about it. If you work in a place that's nice to each other, you're going to love it a lot more than any other environment you're going to be in. That said, Lou, there are a lot of waitresses. There are a lot of secretaries. There are a lot of people working under this kind of duress, being treated this kind of way for far less. It's difficult for people to empathize and sympathize when she was making millions of dollars, and this is the complaint.
When I read that statement, I don't think it's flubbing a line as far as changing words or not remembering. I think the line didn't get the laugh the person who wrote it thought it would get and is blaming the performer.
Sure. Offloading,
and there's a lot of that going on. It was funny when I wrote it. What did you do to it? Right? So...
Lou, how much time do you think was consumed if for the people who worked on Friends? Like, not only were they working till 2 a.m, but how many episodes were they cranking out? How much of the year was taken up by this?
About 22 to 24 a year, maybe 26 a couple of years. And each of those take 4 days basically to do, officially a week, but 4 days. And you do them, like I say, 2 or 3 at a time, take a week off, 2 or 3 at a time. So out of 23, you're working 35 weeks out of the year, roughly.
And then the remainder, they're
counting
probably...
things like, well, they'll call you in for photo shoots or costume tests.
Promo shots.
Stuff like that during those off hours.
And then they also, Lou, they would use the other weeks of the year to film movies, probably, right?
You mean these people?
The actors, yeah.
If they could get one, yeah, sure. If they could get one. But, everybody knew when the hiatus was and wasn't. And once you've got a hit, man, it's your life. It's your life.
Marv, what do you think about this, that now we look back at, and not, I'm using we generously because you and I don't say this, but the people who are part of these shows like The Office or Friends, many of the shows that were so incredibly successful, Seinfeld, people look back now and they criticize them and say, well, it was too white or it was too offensive. It was, all these things. And we're now to the point of saying, well, the writer's room was mostly men. And it's like, guys, you were part of something special. Why do you want to denigrate? Why do you want to slam something that made you known across the country? Like, what is the point now in going back and saying, yeah, but it was awful because of blah, blah, blah.
But not only that, he's basically alleging sexism amongst those writers, right?
Sure.
How do we know some of them weren't gay and weren't going after the guys?
Oh, my. Marv, what do you think, though, about this trend?
The point is that we just said the name Lisa Kudrow out loud on the internet, and nobody has said the name Lisa Kudrow out loud in front of a camera in several years. That's why she did it. And it's why she's doing it, not Courtney Cox or Jennifer Aniston, who have careers to speak of. It gets you talking about it. So if you can, people love to hear about like the dark side of this thing that you loved. It's all performative nonsense. It's a. Do I believe
Fudge Sundays? That's all.
Do I believe that a do I believe that at some point a writer said something kind of crappy to her about a line delivery? Absolutely, it probably happened. But now all of a sudden it's got to be a big scandal. It's got to And Friends has the thing about Friends is a lot of people look back on it fondly. I'm not one of them, but they look back on. But a lot of activists on the left hate Friends because there were a lot of jokes about, the trans community. There were a lot of jokes about gayness. Ross's ex-wife was a lesbian, and they made a million jokes about it, and they were all white. So Friends is an easy target for the progressive media. And so,
by the way, I just looked it up. 236 episodes.
Would you like to? I cede the floor to Lou. Go ahead.
No, all I was going to say was 236 episodes.
It's okay. Maybe when I'm not in the middle of a sentence.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was done anyway.
I apologize.
I'm good.
Look, I mean, this was shot in Burbank, California, on the Warner's lot in Stage 24, which they renamed the Friends stage. And, a lot of the establishment shots or any of the other stuff was just canned footage. So they weren't representing New York as much as they were representing the 19 blocks that is Hollywood in that part of California. And so that tells you just what the makeup of Hollywood was at the time. And snarky, sarcastic people are the ones you're going to find in a comedy writer's room. So I'm not surprised that somebody went after her or said something caustic. Caustic is one of the elements of comedy, and that's why it works.
Also, culture, I mean, if she's delivering the line wrong or she's not delivering the line correctly and it's not getting a laugh, that is going to ultimately reflect on the writer. So, of course, they're going to be like, that didn't get a laugh because she didn't deliver it the way it was supposed to be delivered.
Well, and this is something, and Lou's already pointed out, it's very important for you to have a rehearsal. You usually have a table read-through. And that's where you decide whether or not the joke works or not. Because and that's where you critique somebody about how they deliver a joke. But they were filming in front of a semi-live audience. Am I correct, Lou?
Oh, no, live. And Penny's wanted to stay. Normal shows, you start around 6, 7 o'clock. You go for a couple hours. The audience goes home. You go back and do pickups, and you're done by midnight at the latest. This show, oh, man, the audience was there 2 hours before and 2 hours after and 2 hours during. And there was a band and there was a warm-up guy, and it was an experience. And
then the party atmosphere thereafter, too.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize that, for a lot of these writers, when these actors are changing around the lines that they've written, they get offended by that, and rightfully so. It's not the actor's job to be the writer. It's the actor's job to read what's on the page.
I have to ask a question. Has anybody asked Marta Kaufman about these types of incidents on the show? Wouldn't you think that they would try to consult with her?
Maybe. It's interesting how some of these things go and they're not verified. And who knows? Maybe there are things that Kudrow knows that she doesn't say that are way more, way worse than this, but she doesn't want to talk about it. It's hard to get in the mind.
The answer, if they complain, is don't rock the boat. You're making zillions of dollars.
Still making zillions of dollars off of this.
Yeah.
How much would you say, Lou, like a show like Friends? How well are the folks who made this doing today because of it still?
I can't even begin to calculate it because, remember, once it became big and suddenly there were lunchboxes and posters and everything else with their face on it, the exponential revenue is insane, just insane.
Didn't the streaming rights get negotiated within the last decade or something like that, where they're just getting millions upon millions? Plus the syndication deals, I believe they were also getting millions upon millions.
But only for X number of views, and after that it stopped. With streaming, it's now pretty much all the time. But it's still, compared to what they were getting paid up front, my God.
Were they getting paid, Lou, also on the DVD sales? Because remember the Friends DVD box sets were big sellers back in the aughts.
They were willing to pay them anything. That contract. Well,
and that's the yin and yang too, Marv. Because now that you can see it on streaming, why buy the box? So it was a replacement in one way or another, if you think about it. Except that you can choose a little better which one you want to see. But I don't know. But the kind of money that these shows generate, I mean, the biggest of them all that I know of was ER, which is not a sitcom, but single camera drama. But with ER, in syndication, the days of syndication, when we talk about syndication, we're talking about Channel 13 and Channel 11 and Channel 9 and after the news and after Johnny Carson and in the afternoon. That's where these shows made their money. None of them even broke even on production costs in first run as to what the network paid them back. But if you got enough of them to put together a syndication package, you made serious money. But at a certain point, say 7, 8, 9 seasons, if you got that far, there was no point in making any more because it wasn't doing you that much better. Well, ER reached that point, and they were going to pull the plug, the ER producers, not the network. And the network came to them and said, we need you as a tentpole to put new shows in behind. We will pay you X million dollars extra per episode just to keep making them, even though we don't need them for yourself. We need them for the system.
Right.
And after that deal went through, because it was right next door to where I was working, guy walked around with a big bundle of envelopes. And everybody from craft service to key grips to DPs to everybody got an envelope with a very, 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 very nice bonus check. And with a quiet word saying, hey, if we go 10 minutes overtime, you're not going to complain, are you? No. And that's how much money there was, millions and millions and millions of dollars per episode over and above what they were already getting, which was pretty darn good after all that time.
Well, that you didn't even have to be an actor or a writer. If you were an EP on any shows that any shows that has gone over 100 episodes, you're buying a Gulfstream jet. I mean, you have plenty of money. You can hand people extra money if you have to. That includes the crew, which I've heard stories about the crew being rewarded for going above and beyond.
Well, plus crews tended to stick together. If an EP got successful and spun off shows, everybody moved from one to the next to the next. And remember, with these multi-camera sitcoms, a lot of the crew could do 2 shows a week.
Well, and this is the reason why Jerry Bruckheimer is one of the most powerful guys on the planet. So,
well, and in my day, it was Miller Boyette, and it was Hugh Wilson, and it was a lot of these guys and gals that they created little empires, and it didn't take much before you were just insanely rich.
Well, if you're Kudrow, I think she should be saying TGIF these days. Thank goodness it's Friends, because it gave her the win in life. So that doesn't mean that it's above reproach. You can't complain about anything, but I think folks out there who do not have millions and millions of dollars and jets maybe want to say, gratitude goes a long way. You got it pretty good. You got it pretty good, even for a smelly cat. It is such fun getting to spend time together, folks, but we have come to the end of yet another video. Well, that makes the mainstream scratch their heads, pull their hair out, and wonder, how is it we continue to do what we do? But you know what we do this for? It's for you. To keep bringing all the knowledge of entertainment, explaining what's going on in Hollyweird each and every day. And you can help us continue on that way by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those algorithms. It's the notification bell. Share this out on your favorite social media platforms, and we would love to have you drop a comment right on down below. Share your thoughts because, well, your thoughts truly do matter, and we mean it. As we get ready to say goodbye, we end with the common refrain. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.